Ladies, I am really happy, that's what I want to say, especially with the theme that has been said here, celebrating the great work that women do in business. Indeed, the speakers that came before me did articulate that it is not because you are women that you are here. We are here because you are capable. And of course, being a woman adds to that. As people want to celebrate the work that has been done by our men, all the time, they forget that it is these women that give all the support, assisting with the thinking process, the reading, and making sure that if it is a man that is in charge, at all times he remains calmer at home, and this woman gives all the support to maintain the household so that when the man goes there to occupy the leadership, he does not embarrass the family. This is the job that we do at all times. But in doing that, it is women, again, that recognize that they can't fold their arms. They can't wait for whoever. They have to take an action in order to protect and build their families, no matter what the condition. Whether one has been to school or one has never been, whether one comes from a wealthy family or from a poor family. But there's one thing that binds women or that unites women is that we've got to do it. And doing it means we're doing it for our children, we're doing it for us, we're doing it for our community, and of course, we're doing it for our men. We give birth to our baby boys. Nobody knows them better than us because we keep them there. So even when they are grown, it becomes our responsibility to make sure that they succeed. So celebrating all the work that you are doing is not only something that must be kept here, but it is a story that must be shared, just like we read about other men that are making great strides in the business sector. Very few, Madam Karash, very few women get to be celebrated for the great work that they do. And this is why we should never be ashamed of the little efforts that we put. That at all times we face with challenges, especially in trade, as you know, as you are in majority, but it is the men that still occupy those boardrooms. It is the men that still have the bigger balance in the banks. It is the man that still gets to decide what must happen even in business, although we're in majority at times, not only in political offices, but also in our homes, in our community, and the businesses that our men own. Because most of the time we get to come in for transformation, but we know that we're bigger than the interventions. We appreciate the interventions that is the different governments bring on board. But we also say, we're done, Nyambose, with the podium. We want the stage. And the time for the stage is now. And for us to have that stage, it means we've got to break all the barriers that are there. This is why, as government, we establish structures to deal with the red tapes, bearing in mind that when you're a woman, the red tape is doubled. Because there's the other responsibilities that you have to take care of, whilst you must come and compete with the men that are here to undermine you, as Madam Karash clearly articulated. It is something that every woman has to go through. Before you think about your profits, before you think about your market, you've got to think about the boardroom environment. Am I going to be accepted? Even when they know that you are good, you bring all the great innovations into business, you've made your mark, but still, because you're a woman, you still have to prove yourself. And this is why we take pride in celebrating those that have started, because it's important to start. The dreams that we have are too big to an extent that they scare others. So we celebrate those that do not only dream, but dream big and take action. It is our responsibility as women to make sure that we disrupt the status quo. If women are to occupy the right place is not you being a chair or a whatever only, but it talks to the bank balance again. Because for us to make a dent, we've got to make sure that when they are saying the contribution of businesses is 1 trillion rands, we know that 70% comes from women. Therefore, you're not going to be saying anything without us meaningfully. There is participation, as I said, but we believe that it is still minimum, which is why different governments, especially in South Africa, introduced certain transformative interventions. And those are the ones that have led to some of you being here. Most of the time, as the women in politics, we get to be accused of many things, and I had always believed that it happens only to women in politics, but I've seen in business that, no, she's not good enough. It's because of her network. It's because of her brother, the husband, and all of that. That time, every time you get to sit down and engage, you see the women taking control, not only of the narrative, but also the doing part, which is why women excel where they are given an opportunity in business. We introduce, again, interventions to say we know that funding is still a challenge. As we talk about the red tapes that are there, it is not only the regulatory environment, but access to finance for women is still very complicated to many countries. And these are the things that we are saying it is high time that we take charge, which is why, again, in South Africa, we therefore introduced the funding policy for micro, small, and medium enterprises, because most of the time, women-owned businesses are found in that segment. And this is why we would want to work with everyone to make sure that we get women owning big businesses too, because they deserve to own those businesses. When we introduced this funding policy, we said there's a need for us to engage with the ecosystem that must make sure whether you are a government entity or a non-government entity, but you must have appreciation of the different segments and the challenges, therefore, that are faced by the segments that we have. In that policy, to complement what President Ramaphosa had directed in terms of ensuring that we procure at least 40% of whatever that we are procuring from women-owned businesses. But guess what? We do see that governments and private sector still wants to reduce women to only providing catering when we're talking about those percentages. Whilst we know that women are good even in producing certain products that we have seen. So we're saying that 40% has to be meaningful, clearly defined, and as I said earlier, disrupt the status quo. If you're owning a train, or if you are in the train business, we want to make sure that if the head does not come from a women-owned business, at least the engine and the other parts. If you are in the clothing industry that makes suits or whatever, we want to make sure that those buttons and the collar, so we clearly define our niche in every aspect that we are participating in. Because it is important that our role does not just get to be reduced to being those that must provide food and do decor, whilst it is an important economy that we must also celebrate. But we are bigger than those. And this is why, working with the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, building from the funding policy that I spoke about, when we therefore recommended that there's a need for South Africa to create a fund of funds in order to complement the work that is being done by the DFIs to increase access to funding for small businesses, as specifically women-owned. We agree that we must establish the Transformation Fund. Most people don't know how we came about the Transformation Fund. So we agreed because in the proposal that we made in the funding policy, we had said we are going to take 1% from the 3% of the enterprise supplier development funds that large corporates are supposed to contribute as part of the BEE. Now, when Minister Parks came on board, we said it's going to take too long because it means we must make amendments to the legislation because we were saying ESD belongs to smaller enterprises. Now, for you to give effect to that, it means we must amend the legislation. We agreed with the minister that no, as he's administering, let's do this jointly. So we are working together as we continue to consult different stakeholders. I do hope that the ladies that are sitting here have made inputs, because it is important that the Transformation Fund really addresses the challenges that are faced by women in accessing funding. If you have not done that, you must know you have failed women. There is this tendency that I observe that most business people don't want to get involved in the legislative process. And this is what is killing businesses, because business people dissociate themselves from lawmaking, whilst the rules, policy, and everything is based on the law. And if you don't understand the law, because whether you're going to get into the agro-processing sector, you want to export to France, there are regulations that stem out of policies that have been developed by those governments. Now, if you don't make it your responsibility to understand the ecosystem that governs, then it tells that you won't be able to succeed. And this is why we call upon women not only contributing to the legislative process, but also working together to collaborate in order to ensure that we are successful. It is another challenge that you are faced with. Men are good in doing it. Women want to compete unhealthy, compete so that I can take her down, even in business. And this is why we have not managed to thrive. This is why when you engage the big corporates that are not procuring or opening their value chains or supply chains to women-owned businesses, they will tell you, Minister, we do want to accommodate them. We ask for 50 bags of potatoes a week, and all those that applied, they are producing 5 bags and 10 bags. And neither of them thought that we can join hands together. The 5, 10, 25 can give us 50 bags so that we supply the person that is in need of the product. As a result, we lose the opportunities. And as I'm saying that, there are women who are trying to do those. But there's a great strength that women have that they don't bring into business, because women know how to work together when they establish stockpiles. When they do their funeral schemes, they work together. The people who are making insurances through the burial schemes and all of that, who are making those businesses to thrive, it is women that make sure that I want to be looked after, my family and all of that. But when it comes to building businesses, women don't bring that strength in order to collaborate so that they can make a dent in the economy. And as I'm standing here, I want to make that call, that it is important that we work together, because that's the only way we're going to be able to break the chains and make the change that our people deserve, by ensuring that if we're talking about a particular contribution to the GDP, that must come from many women-owned businesses. So the Transformation Fund is one that I'm inviting you to make sure that you submit your inputs. You can work as the different sectors, get organized, mobilized, because if you're not doing that, there are people hell-bent on undermining this transformational agenda that we want to drive. There are people already who have committed that they will take that process to court. Yes, we are a government that promotes non-racialism, but we are a country with a particular history that's not going to be washed away just because we are here today. We stand by our Constitution in terms of addressing the imbalances, which is a preamble in our Constitution, and all those that swear by the Constitution must respect even that aspect that appreciates that not all is well. We're still not equal, and therefore let's join hands, work together, bring what you know, what you have, so that we can take this country to greater heights. So standing here amongst yourselves, this is an opportunity, Madam Kadash, to make sure that we join your big ecosystem that I've heard about. You can imagine Nyambo, if she can decide with all those hundreds of thousand numbers that were mentioned here, they can decide to open a party and contest to say we are coming for everything. We understand that economic power is not, political power is nothing without economic power. So for us, we're going to use both and fight for the space. But because they are women, they're not preoccupied with greed and positions, but they're focused on what needs to be done, which is what brings you here, to say you have a role to play, and mine, as I said, is to ensure that we celebrate that work, but we also get to do our part. The rights that we enjoy come with responsibilities. And the first responsibility is not only voting, is to ensure that you participate in your democratic process. That participation, it means you make the law because you vote so that there could be a law in place. So they go together. Women of our beautiful countries do attend those meetings that set bylaws. I know they can be annoying when councillors call you, but it is those bylaws that exclude you from being in a strategic area in your business. It is those bylaws that will come and agree to say, no, we can have this Molanyana business here, but we can't have this one here. Know that number. It is through the law that things are achieved. So everywhere I go, I always make sure that I give people their responsibility that comes with the rights that they enjoy, to say, please don't only vote for us, but help us to develop laws that respond to your economic challenges. We have won the political freedom. It doesn't end there. There's a need for us to leave a legacy for our children. Own chain stores, big construction companies, get involved in the financial services sector, transform it, make it work for women. But if we're staying away from those processes, we're not going to be able to do so. So, as I say this because the program director did say the time is against us as we celebrate the good work. I do wish, because there are engagements that are going to be held through those panels, I do wish that some of the interventions that will be provided will talk to the real issues that are affecting us. The access to markets, the access to funding, the lack of access to business development support, because we can create so many funds, but without investing in business development support, our people are not going to be able to access those funds. So they will be wasted because there will not be an uptake, because people are not ready, because there's loss of compliance to access the funding. We're not saying people must do away with compliance where it's necessary, but we are saying it is the responsibility of the government to make sure that they pay or they fund transformation, and transformation starts with development. That provision of support for compliance that we have set as government. Because when you put all those legislations and you set a criteria, you shouldn't come back and say there are no people who meet the criteria. Who are you developing it for? If your own people are not able to access that or to meet those standards, the standards must always talk to our people, or you bring your people to the standards, which means you invest in business development support. And in this regard, this is why I'm proud to announce that as the department, we have established 121 incubation centers. Because there's lots of people who do business, but they don't understand the ecosystem they're operating in. So we said we've got to hold businesses, small businesses by hand, provide that pre-investment support so that by the time we put in funding, whatever support, they are ready to receive. But we don't only end there, which is what we've been doing, Sispili. We also invest in post-investment support. That staying power, that we've held you by hand, you've been given an opportunity to come and trade in France, and then how do you stay there? Because you're going to be competing with the big boys, and you know, hell, girl, they're going to come for you. So how do we help you to transition from that business that got shocked by these hundreds of millions all of a sudden that you're going to get to be contracted with, and then you stay in business? So we said there's a need for us to invest heavily on post-investment support. And I did talk about the set-asides in terms of the 40%, but as I said, it's important that those set-asides be meaningful set-asides, not just by the way opportunities that are given to our people. We stand firm and committed as the government of national unity that we can't continue talking about growing an economy if it is not inclusive. The inclusive economy that we're talking about can't leave out women. That's why we are unapologetic about the interventions that we provide. And in this regard, even the Transformation Fund will have a particular percentage that is set aside for women-owned businesses, just like we do as the DFIs. If you go to NEF, if you go to SITFA, our agency, IDC, I think they also have, we've made a commitment that all our budgets, 40% goes to women-owned. And it doesn't mean that it can be above, which most of the time has been above the 40% because we are deliberate about it, because we want to address the challenges and give women the stage that they deserve. They are done by being in the podium. And as I say that, the program director has just reminded me. Allow me to leave you with these words. This work is not for yourselves. Kill that spirit of self. And if you rise, make sure you lift others or you bring others with you. Do not stay above your people, but stay with them. And this is why I'm saying join us in the process of making the laws, because we want to stay with you and make sure that you bring us along as you rise. Thank you so much.